welcome to the Kokusnes podcast. We have a very special guest for April. This is the special edition of our podcast. We have the 50th church anniversary of Miracle Baptist Church, and so for this episode we have Deacon Peter Park, the son of the founding pastor of this church, 박근서 목사님, right? So I wanted to pick your brain and ask you a little bit, because there's a richness about the history of this church. There are some things that I understand. I just kind of pieced together. Nobody told me the story, but that this church was planted out of Berendo Street Baptist Church, which is kind of an important church in itself. Now, when did your father come to the United States?
He came to the state in 1964.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like at the time, not that many Korean people here.
Not
right?
many Koreans were in Los Angeles.
Right.
Yeah. And if I may briefly give a little history about my father coming to the United States.
Yes.
He actually was an artist that he wanted to come to state to further study his skill of art.
Yeah.
So, but during the Korean War, after Korean War, to make the living, he was drawing portraits to U.S. Army officers, soldiers, and people.
Wow.
At the Army base. One of the famous Korean artists, who, of course, he's passed away.
Okay.
His name is I can't recall his name, but he is very famous.
Okay.
He and my father both were drawing portraits to the Americans.
Wow.
And selling the portraits, and that make the living for, during the after the Korean War.
Wow.
And that made him further wanted to achieve his skills or degrees further to come to state. So he had accepted to the school, the University of San Francisco, I think the Fine Arts School.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then it was actually 1963. He was accepted and getting admitted to the school.
Yeah.
So by those days, you need to have a chest X-ray.
Oh, for
to get a visa.
What was it?
to
TB, tuberculosis.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but then getting accepted to the school, all he had to do is to get a visa.
Yes.
But then his chest X-ray showed him had TB.
Oh.
So the visa was denied.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it gave him a shock to him, because he had spent so many months preparing to come to the United States. So what he had done was to go to Prayer Mountain in Korea.
Okay.
It's called Samgaksan,
Okay.
Prayer Mountain. And he went there and fasting, asking God why was his further going to United States was stopped.
Yeah.
So in doing so, he's praying. God had him remember that he had well, actually, my father was from North Korea.
Oh,
yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My father and mother, after they got married, they, of course, fled from North side. They knew the war was coming, because it was all communist in North side already.
Right.
So they, leaving their parents and their brothers and siblings back in North, they evacuated, escaped from the North side, and coming down further to South. And by doing that, on one of those Wednesday night, he heard the church bell ring. and then he walked. It was in a farm area, very countryside. Many of the people already fled to south of the part of the Korea, which is Busan area.
Oh,
everybody
way south.
Yeah. Everybody going down to Busan area, but this general area was, I think he said it was sort of like middle of Chungcheongdo or somewhere there, and he heard a bell, so he went in. He saw all the elderly people only because they could not move down further south. They just left himself there and just singing hymns and reading Bible. And as they walked in, everybody was surprised to see a young couple coming in. And they asked him, "Can you please preach to us?" He was not a pastor. He was just an elder at the time. Yeah. So I think he has told me that he was there several months preaching to them. Yeah. It was in the countryside, so it was not it's little secure. It wasn't right before the Korean War. Right before the Korean War. So, and while he was there preaching, I think he dedicated himself to become a preacher.
Pastor. Wow.
But because of the living during the Korean War is so hard. Yeah. So trying to make living, making ends meet. So he had done anything to survive. So he has forgotten what he had dedicated to God. And then, obviously, when he was praying at the Sangaksan, the prayer mountain, then he realized God had made him remember what he had done, dedicated himself. So he repented and asking God, then, "God, I will become a pastor, your servant. So let me into United States." So, but miraculously, his chest X-ray came very clean, without TB. So, year later.
Wow! After the prayer, he took the X-ray again, and it came out clean. There was no evidence of any TB.
So that's why he came to United States.
He got the clearance. Okay.
Yes. So then the coming to United States by airplane was so expensive. Yeah, Korea was so poor. Yeah. And to come to United States, country allowed you to take $200 maximum.
Oh wow!
So at the time, he brought $200 to United States.
Wow!
But coming here on a ship took him almost 45 days. Nowadays the ship comes here to Busan to West Coast is less than 2 weeks time.
Oh wow!
But then he took on a ship that traveled all the way to the East Asia, and then coming all the way up here to the state.
Let me ask you a question. Was your grandfather also a believer?
Yes.
Was he at the Pyongyang revival?
Yes.
He was, right?
My
wow.
My grandfather, whom I never seen, because he was executed, being a Korean, and the leader of the town. He was a leader of the town where my father was born. And his father also became believer.
So you're actually fourth generation.
Yes.
Wow.
So the older generation, the Koreans had the hair.
상투.
There you go. 상투.
Yeah. I remember that.
But then when he accepted Jesus Christ,
he cut it off.
Grandfather, they cut the hair up to just like the missionary. They have a clean cut hair.
Yeah.
So then, since then, he formed. My grandparents formed a school teaching young kids Bible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
That's in North Korea.
North Korea.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
okay.
And they're from Pyeongan-bukdo, which is close to Pyongyang.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's where the first Christianity, the missionary came north side. Yeah, then it came down to the south area, but that's Pyongyang was the revival, had their revival first.
You said your grandfather was executed?
Yes.
By who? By what?
Communist, because he was the leader and Christian.
Wow.
Yeah, my father.
So he's martyred, 순교.
Yeah, martyred. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Where I left off was that he came to United States.
Yeah, after the clean X-ray.
Clean X-ray.
Yeah.
Came to state. The merchant ship landed on Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And when he arrived, he was greeted by the people that were doing witnessing to the overseas shoresmen, like people from overseas.
Okay.
Yeah, So obviously, because he didn't have anybody acquaintance in United States at all. So when he was greeted, he was so glad to have somebody come out to meet him.
Yes.
But then they were evangelizing to all the newcomers to the state.
Okay.
Yeah, especially from overseas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this gentleman from wanted to witness to him, and they were getting getting to the conversation that
Yes.
he came to the United States to further study wanting to go to seminary. So he then had connected with his own pastor. So my father stayed at his house for I think 2 nights. I think he told me, and
this person from Oregon.
Yes.
Was he American?
American, yes.
Oh, did your father already speak a little English, or
because doing with
drawing
and selling to the Americans? Obviously, I'm sure he spoke broken English.
Okay.
And
Wow.
he actually, in his younger days, during the Japanese occupation in Korea, he went abroad, Japan, to study.
Oh, so he speaks
from high school.
Japanese.
He speaks Japanese.
Oh, wow.
Obvious from that, from Japan, he learned some English there while he was there too.
Okay.
So, but when he was talking to this pastor,
Yes.
and he mentioned about his dream that he had when he was in Prayer Mountain.
Oh.
So that he was describing orange trees.
Oh.
And the pastor said, in the United States, the oranges are grown in Florida and California.
Yeah.
So my father said, I want to go to California,
Okay.
which is closer.
Yes.
So I think he said next day he got on a Greyhound bus, which the station is in LA downtown. So when he arrived, he looked up the Yellow Pages. Then Yellow Page was so popular.
It was.
The Korean church was found. So that's where he went, Veranda Street Korean Baptist Church.
Wow. Nowadays it's called 새누리교회. They changed the name.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm. And then Pastor Don Kim.
Yes.
Yes, he actually came to further study his engineering from Korea. He has gotten PhD degree, but then accepting Jesus Christ while he was in school. Yeah, he met somebody, witnessed to him, so he accepted Jesus Christ, went to seminary, and he was the first Korean Baptist church pastor.
Wow.
And his wife, as everybody knows, as Korean name is
Anisuk Samo.
Anisuk Samo.
Yeah,
Esther Kim.
Yeah.
And she fighting against the Japanese Shintoism
Yeah.
and not having to bow
To the Shinto god.
Shinto
Yes.
god.
Yeah.
So she was put into jail
Yes.
for I forgot how many years because of so much of their she could not bear any baby, so in between them
Oh.
they didn't have any children
Kid.
at all.
Oh.
Yeah, she was so beaten so hard and at the jail.
Pastor Don, his Korean name is
Kim Dong-myung.
Kim Dong-myung 목사님.
Yes.
Okay,
uh-huh.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when I was before getting ordained, one of my pastor friends he showed me this book written by Kim In-su 총장님 of the 장신 미주장신,
Uh-huh.
and he wrote this book 예수의 양 주기철.
Uh-huh.
And I was reading this book,
Uh-huh.
and there's a poignant scene where they're both in jail.
Yeah.
주기철 목사님 was in jail. He later got martyred.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But 안희숙 사모님, well, she was younger then. They were both in jail, and in the darkness they recognized each other because they were already pretty famous for being resistant to the Japanese forced Shinto shrine worship. They were turning our churches into Shinto shrines, and they were saying no. And I know that there were a lot of Korean pastors that they gave in, they gave up, a lot of them.
Right.
But 안희숙 사모님 was one of the, like Esther, if I perish, I perish, right?
Yeah.
So now when I heard that, I go, that's a pretty interesting story that a lot of Korean American young people should learn about it. So now your father used to attend the Berendo Street Baptist Church for how long?
So since 1964 to 1972, so that's almost 9 years.
You were there too.
I came to state in 1968, so we attended this church.
Okay,
Yes,
together.
Yeah, together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my father went to school here, Azusa Pacific.
Oh,
Then,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then he went to Fuller Seminary,
Okay.
where there was no Korean
At all.
at all.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh. And
Wow.
and he was ordained as a minister at the church. I think it was 1966. I think.
At the Berendo Street.
At the Berendo
Oh,
Street
wow.
Church. Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Was he a 부목사님 there?
Yes, he was
Okay.
associate pastor
Okay.
for 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And because he has so much heart of experience and of praying and fasting,
Yeah.
he led the 새벽기도, which American churches didn't have
No.
anything then.
Right.
He knows 새벽기도, so he had led the 새벽기도 from that church.
Yeah. What size of a church was Berendo Street at that time?
At the time, I would say they were
Couple of hundred?
little less, but then
okay.
many of them were people came to study.
Oh.
Yes, and
Okay.
they all settled here after graduating, getting degrees, and so there were a lot of professionals, and there were some intermarriage people. So
Oh.
I think 150 to 200 people.
You mentioned that he wanted to study art, so he got accepted to San Francisco. Did you live in San Francisco a little bit or no?
No.
Oh.
So he just
Just came to church.
just right here. Yeah, he came to LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and so when he decided to plant a church, he did not want it to plant a church nearby where
In
he
LA.
was serving. Yeah. So he came all the way down to originally Long Beach,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and we before planting a church, he went to Long Beach area and looking up all the yellow pages. He found several people owning stores and whatnot, Korean names. He started contacting those, and we came across 우리 제이슨 초 조광남 집사님
Okay.
couple. They were going to Cal State Long Beach then. They were yes, and he started the Bible study at our home in Huntington Park.
Huntington Park.
Yeah.
I know that area very well. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we started our church in Long Beach,
Yeah.
we obviously rented another from a Baptist church
Okay.
called, then used to call Truett Memorial Baptist Church. So I looked up why is a Truett so famous name. He was a theologian, famous theologian, and that many churches were named after him.
Wow.
Yeah, so there was a church, Truett Memorial Baptist Church in Long Beach. So they had a old sanctuary they started from, and they had built a bigger sanctuary, modern. So they did not occupy the smaller sanctuary, so they rented it to us. So we started our church at their location, which is still there.
We did visit that place last time when we were visiting the old timers.
Yes.
You mentioned that was a church, right?
So I remember when we started, we didn't have that many people.
Yes.
I think 50 or 60 people.
Well, that's pretty good
Yes,
size
yeah.
to start. Yeah.
And many of them were non-believer.
Oh.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah, because gathering together as a Korean people,
Yeah.
we were having to meet each other. That was like,
Comfort.
for the immigrant people,
Yeah,
and first generation. So that's how we started church.
Yes.
And I remember on every Friday we had all-night prayer service. So we were praying so loud.
Oh.
Many neighbors complained from the church. Yeah, so we had to. Many of them went outside of the sanctuary and started praying. So it was heard from neighbors. So they
At
kind
middle of the night.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they all moved back then.
Yeah.
And then when the church had the new pastor, I remember even the pastor's name was Paul Brooks Leith. Leith was
Okay.
the pastor then. He was very favored to us. Yeah, he had us use their sanctuary and also their fellowship hall, and we used the kitchen to have lunch after our services. But when they had the new service, new pastor came in, which he was in favor for us. They wanted to use all that facility. So we had to look for another church right here, Los Alamitos, called Methodist Church. Los Alamitos Methodist Church.
Oh, okay. Now we're closer.
Very close.
Yeah.
Yes. And at that church, I think we were there 2 years. At the other place, we were like almost 4.5 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
the Los Alamitos Church, we outgrow their main church.
Wow.
So they were kind of giving us, look.
Dunchi.
Yes,
Yeah.
there you go. So we were started to praying to God that we want our own place of worship.
Okay.
Yeah.
But by that time, you have over 100 people, maybe.
We had almost 300. Yes,
Wow.
we grow tremendously then.
Back in when the church was in Los Alamitos, by this time you were already all grown up, right?
I was in school. Yeah,
In
I was
in college?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
college. I think I was in senior years.
Oh, okay. Where did you go to high school?
I went to Huntington Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you went to school
The,
there.
the reason we lived there
Uh-huh.
because my father, in order for him to support us in Korea,
Yeah.
he was working as an artist.
That's right. I wanted to ask you about that too, because that's an interesting story as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He worked in Hanna-Barbera,
Yes.
which is the
yes. Flintstones.
yes. He
Yeah.
was the one of the original artists.
Animator.
Yeah, animator.
Okay.
Then you have to actually literally
I know.
drew everything.
I
Now
know.
he's
It's
computer
computer.
graphics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there were many cartoonists, many.
Were there many Korean animators at that time, or not that many?
Not that many.
He was one of the few.
Yes, one of the few.
Okay.
Yeah, there were other Koreans, but he was one of the few.
Wow.
And working as a animator,
Yes.
I'm sure he made quite a bit of money.
Back in those days.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
So
what a big blessing that must
yes,
have been.
yes. So that's why he had opportunity to purchase a couple of apartments, fourplexes
Wow.
in Huntington Park. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why when we came to state, he already had. So we had lived there for several years.
Okay.
Yeah.
College. Where did you go to college?
When I first graduated from the high school, my father wanted me to see if I have a calling
For pastorate.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a feeling that might have happened.
He
Yeah.
said, you have to go to California Baptist University.
Oh, you went to Okay, in Riverside.
Riverside.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Those days were called California Baptist College.
Yes.
Now it's a CBU.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to go there, just abiding what
But the father said, yeah.
So without any resistance, I never put any kind of application to any other school.
Oh.
So just went there straight.
And what did you study? Did you study like biblical studies or ministry? Or
Yeah, going further than that.
Yeah.
I was there for just 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah, because I really pray to God if I had any callings but there was no really so
Nothing clear. No clear signal.
yeah for
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah.
I know all the guys were there, called to the ministry. They all had the license, all pasted up on the wall.
Yes.
Yeah, all of the guys. But to me, it wasn't. I didn't have any callings or any kind of emotions or feelings towards that. So, but what I met during the days, we met Rick Warren.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was 1 year senior to us. Yeah, when I was a freshman, he was a sophomore. We were all living in a dorm.
He was in Cal Baptist.
Yes.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then he, I think, went further study to other seminary. But
Yeah,
he
he went to Fuller, I think, to get his doctorate. I think, yeah.
So he was a leader then. Yeah, he was a very good leader.
Oh,
Still.
yeah.
So, but so I ended up transferring. I had transferred to Long Beach State.
What did you end up studying at Long Beach State?
Business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I have to ask you this. How was it like growing up as a PK? Like during
Yeah.
that time, I
Yeah.
mean, I wonder.
No matter what you do, you were always get pinpointed.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Your
yeah.
dad was like a kind of perfectionist. Because
Yeah.
I mean, he's an artist too.
Well, no, not by the parent, but the
or the church.
yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So I mean, we had, even if you do something right, because you're PK,
Well, it's expected.
and if,
Yeah, you should do.
yeah,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the other ways, if you were doing something bad,
Yeah.
oh man, they were so harsh on all of us. So,
How big of a family was that? Like are you the oldest or?
I have an older brother.
Okay.
He's a retired doctor.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have 2 more younger brother and a sister. So we have
wow,
5 siblings. Yes.
Wow, big family.
Yeah. When we were growing up, my father, when we started the church, rest of our sibling, the 4 of us, were just taking care of ourselves because we were living in Huntington Park, and he started church in Long Beach. So whenever he come out down here for morning prayer service, he would stay at church.
Right.
And do all the visitation.
Right,
The early days, as a pastor, you have to take care of all the early immigrants that come to state.
Yeah.
You would have to find them job,
Oh,
put the children in the school.
right.
They have to go to bank to open up checking account.
So the
and
pastor did all that.
Oh, everything then.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So we never seen them when they leave in the morning to go to church. So we had to survive ourselves.
Oh.
So I remember, growing up, not only resentment, but I don't think we had any good vacation together with the parents.
Oh.
Yeah, they were so tied up with their schedule with the church and
Right.
visiting members and all.
Right.
So it's like 24-hour, if you call it job.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. They're occupied all the time,
Yes.
and there's no free time for the family.
Yeah.
That's I mean, I hear that a lot because of the rigorous schedule. And then you're talking about pastor doing everything, the landing service, opening the bank account, taking them to DMV,
Yes.
making sure that they're able to start life here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how they become church member.
Yeah.
But then as soon as they, grow a little bit and get used to the living here, they find their ways out to further, other locations. So yeah. But anyway, many of them are thankful that the pastors in early days were so helpful for them to settle in the state. Yeah.
What are your earliest memories that were really good about the church? Like when you think back, you go, "Oh man, those days were really, really good, exciting times." For you personally, in your personal walk with the Lord.
I accepted Jesus Christ when I was 16 years old.
Okay.
At Miranda Street Church.
Okay.
We obviously grew up in a Christian family,
Sure.
but it was never a personal savior. But then when we went to retreat, that's where most of us.
Okay.
Yeah. So found accepted Jesus Christ then at the retreat. I remember there were so many of us at the youth group. So the pastor Don Kim wanted to show the world that how we can maybe witness to the people in the beach area. So we went to Santa Monica.
Okay.
We got all baptized there.
In the Santa Monica beach waters. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were baptized when you were 16?
Yes.
Okay. And then that's when you felt a personal relationship developing with the Lord.
Right.
Wow. Those are good times.
But we had some, backsliding then.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean,
obviously.
yeah. Now we're coming to the point in the story of the church where you moved to Los Alamitos, and then it was outgrowing that facility. So is it after Los Alamitos that we become Cypress Baptist Church?
So because they were giving us nunchi at the Los Alamitos.
Yeah.
Then the pastor, my father, had many church members to go up to the mountain and do a fasting prayer, just particularly on a house of worship for our own.
Yeah.
So we obviously nowadays we have the luxury of staying in retreat center. Then we couldn't afford, so we rented a army tents for one man and for another one for woman.
Okay.
So we pitched it up and
how many people would fit inside those tents?
it was one of the real huge ones.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 30 some odd people fit
wow.
in. Yeah. So I remember it's called Black Mountain. It's not a Black Mountain, but it's area called Black Mountain. I don't know where it is now, but then I remember it was called Black Mountain.
That's where you went
in
to
San
pray.
Bernardino. Oh,
yes, okay.
Yeah. So we went there and pray.
Oh.
I remember it was 3 days of fasting prayer, and what happened was during the day time, as you know, during summertime, there's no rain in Southern California.
Yeah.
But then we clearly saw a rainbow.
Oh, wow.
And many of us were praying over through the night, so they were tired. There were some were sleeping in the tents, did not have opportunity to see the rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that who saw was so amazed. And as you know, the rainbow is only occurs after the rain.
Right.
There was no
It's a
rain.
miracle.
And everybody everybody thinks and believe it was
A sign.
a sign from God.
Yeah.
And many of those did not see it were crying. They wanted to see it.
Yeah.
See, it appeared 3 times.
Wow. Were you there?
Yes, I was.
Did you see it too?
Yes.
You're an eyewitness of a miracle.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
At this time, you were like in college, right? You're a college group or maybe graduate?
yes.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
I was in a college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we came down. They were. I remember the 박은영 권사님 is one of the one together.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's still living. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
she was there too.
yes, we came down, and my father, at that time, we were at the Southern California Baptist Convention, had many workers that wanted to help us
Oh,
find a place.
wow.
So there were like people like, figuring out budget-wise and all.
Yeah.
And they would find the location. So one of from the state board came and gave us a suggestion of with our own size and offering, we are able to purchase a certain amount. So they would give us a figure. So
we were part of the SBC for a long time.
well, no, my father. Because he has ordained from the Baptist Church.
Okay.
Even though he was not grown up as a Baptist in Korea,
Yeah.
obviously Korea does not have.
more 장로교.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He was the elder of 장로교회.
He was a Presbyterian.
Yes,
Yeah.
but when he came to state and went to the Baptist Church,
Yeah.
the Vernon Street Baptist Church, obviously became a Baptist.
Wow.
Yes, and. So they have found this location for us.
This present location where we're at right now.
Right.
Okay.
So so they were asking us to offer a certain amount of price,
yeah.
so which is $500,000 then.
Okay.
So my father wrote up a offer sheet and went to the Lutheran church next door and gave it to the pastor. And the pastor right away then said, "Oh, we cannot accept this offer because right now we have escrow is ongoing. It's about to close.
They have another buyer lined up.
Lined up already in escrow."
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow! These are details that are
Yes.
new to me. I didn't hear this before. Okay.
So, so my father said, "Well, still to accept it, we are going to pray about it.
Okay.
So in case you change your mind, to let us know." So
I know that the counteroffer that your father put in was way below the.
it was a $500,000.
That was his offer.
Yeah, that was our the offer.
Okay.
And
but they were asking like 850 or something.
yes,
Like it was a lot more.
At the time, the escrow was on going for 800. I think it says 825,000.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
very close to $900,000.
Okay.
And
A lot of money back then.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of difference.
Yeah.
Still, it's $300,000
Yeah.
more a difference.
Yeah.
So pastor presented this to their own congregation,
Yeah.
and the congregation somehow thinking if another American church was established here or moved here, they were in sort of like competition or so they all congregation rejected that to continue the escrow and finally decided to go and accept the lower offer, which is $500,000.
Yeah.
So
You left out a detail though. Your father wasn't he praying?
Yes,
wasn't he praying around the?
Because our church at the time was Los Alamitos, which is about 10 minutes away, right here.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was doing morning prayer service and bring all the 권사님들.
Oh, okay.
Like,
prayer walking.
Walking 7 times.
Yeah. Jericho. Yeah.
So, and because of this, the rainbow, which is the sign of God's promise.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they finally accepted us, and it was merely a piece of land with the unfinished construction building. Yeah, our main sanctuary was halfway finished.
Okay.
Yeah.
The present sanctuary that we have now,
Right.
it was at the time halfway finished.
Yeah.
Oh wow, wow. So Miracle Land Baptist Church at the time called the Cypress Baptist Church was the occupants of this building from the very beginning.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
So
What a huge blessing.
because we were situated in Long Beach, we called ourselves in Korean name was Long Beach Korean Baptist Church.
Okay, that was the first name.
Yes,
Okay.
and when we moved to city of Cypress, we couldn't call it Long Beach.
Right, because
Yes,
we're no longer
right.
Long Beach. Yeah.
So, but then we called it Cypress. But my father then had English name Miracle Land Korean Baptist Church.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we dedicated our building here,
Yeah.
I think that was in 1980. It says
Oh,
here,
okay, okay,
1980.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow. You know, it's interesting thing that you mentioned about the rainbow because Pastor Daniel, our present senior pastor, he was driving from Texas and he said that he saw a rainbow coming in here too. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also the 이상래 목사님,
Yes. Oh.
he also saw rainbow when he was called to become our pastor. He was praying if it is God's will.
To show a sign.
Yeah, so he did see a rainbow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so yeah.
Wow. You and Pastor Lee got pretty close because you guys went to Africa all the time.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the transitioning into the house church, but before that, let's finish our conversation about your dad. When did he retire? What year?
If I remember correctly, it was 1997.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, since his retirement,
Was he like past 65? Was he? He was almost 70, right?
yeah, he was
retired?
almost 70.
Okay. Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, almost quite not quite 70, but almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my father, after he retired, he didn't want to give a burden to the pastor then. So he had committed himself to go to missionary to Japan.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
So like we say in Korean, 비켜주시다. He just kind of made room for Pastor Lee so that he could become the new leader.
Yes, actually, it wasn't Pastor Lee. Well,
Oh, it was before.
other
There was another pastor. Okay.
another pastor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was also Pastor Lee.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Pastor Lee, 이상래 목사님 is the third pastor or fourth?
He was
probably fourth, right?
Fifth.
Fifth.
Yeah. Fifth.
Also, it's your father, and then there was three other pastors before Pastor Lee.
Yes,
Oh,
they were.
okay.
It's not a coincidence, but it's all the pastors after my father. Somehow they were only 3 years of serving in this church.
Okay.
And first pastor after my father had departed our church and formed his own church.
Okay.
And after him, we had Pastor Lee, Jang, which he had the PhD on missiology.
Okay.
So, because at the Korean Baptist University needed a professor that studied, so they called him out from so he had to leave.
Okay.
So after serving 3 years at our church, he left to Korea to be the professor, teach. Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, we had another pastor, Saul, which from Onuri, Korea.
Oh, Seoul Onuri.
Yeah, and
Okay.
he was in charge of English ministry there, and he was bilingual. So he came and he served 3 years, and he was called to another church, so he left.
And then
That was Pastor Lee. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember talking to Pastor Lee. How was that? Like when he came in and transitioning the MBC into a house church system. Like I remember him telling me that it took him about a year. He just kept gathering people together and feeding the deacons and getting to know them really well before he presented the idea. How did you react when you first heard about the house church?
Actually, I was exposed to house church
Already?
earlier.
Oh, before Pastor Lee.
Another Pastor Lee, the third pastor.
Oh.
We went to pastors' conference
In Houston?
in Houston when they were starting the house church movement.
Oh, wow.
Then Pastor Lee and myself and another deacon, we didn't know it was only for the pastors, but two other deacons, two deacons along with our pastor went to that pastors' conference.
With 최영기 목사님?
Yes.
Okay.
Then it was a very small group.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
One of the original seminars.
And I was exposed to that, and then we learned, and it was to me, it was a really good, so I adapted that system to my own group, small group. And then all the young people that were in my group, they were also dedicated doing so. In house church movement, yes, and they were all blessed. So I was exposed to that. And when Pastor Lee was introduced to me by this one missionary, which is missionary Ko in Panama.
I met him.
Yes.
고광철 선교사님. I think he's retiring now too.
Yeah, he's going back to Korea.
Yeah.
When my father was pastoring this church, we went down, for the mission trip to Panama.
Yes.
And when Pastor Lee at his own church in St. Louis went to this, serve at the Panama. So this missionary church, he knew both churches. So,
mutually acquainted.
Yeah. So when we were looking for a new pastor, he was recommended it. Yeah, so that's how we came to know him. Yeah. And when Pastor Lee started the house church, there were a lot of objections. They were against a lot of this movement because it is so hard.
It's difficult.
You have to dedicate it so much. Yeah. But then he showed himself how to serve, servant leadership.
By example.
Yes. So he served us every Friday, all the deacons. We were meeting as a house church.
Where would you meet? Would you meet at church or at his house?
His house.
Oh, it's the Satek right now.
Right.
Okay.
So we would every Friday we would go, and it was so awkward for us to get served for a pastor. You know, many of the
We served the pastor. In
we
Korean
served.
thinking.
Yeah. So it was the other way around. So
Yeah.
it was hard to accept. So, but then time passes. We realize that's how Jesus was a servant.
Yeah, that's what he says in Mark.
Yeah.
For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve,
Right.
and to give his life as a ransom for many.
Obviously, many of them did not accept this house church, so they left. We had quite a bit of congregation left during his pastoring years. Yeah.
Well, what was the biggest number that MBC had at one time?
At one time,
Almost 400 almost.
Whole congregation-wise, English and youth, approximately 400.
400.
Yeah, we had almost 300. Our main
sanctuary.
main sanctuary, almost 300
Wow.
people. Yeah,
Wow.
and I remember our parking lot was so
Packed.
we had to use the next door.
Oh wow.
Yeah, every Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hopefully there will be another revival like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I already see and feel that many of new VIPs are
Coming in
to church.
Yeah.
Yes, and I already see the number 50 is very significant because we are starting a new 50th venture.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
and I want to mention that there's a small parcel of land
Yes.
which they didn't sell us,
Yeah.
and they cannot even use themselves, and they
Yeah.
cannot even sell to any other people because there's no easement.
Yeah.
That property is saved for us, for our future.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
hopefully
Yeah.
once there's growth in the church and the need for it,
Right.
hopefully the Lord will open doors for the next 50th.
Amen.
Yeah.
So, God has blessed those people that trust Him,
Yes.
and
I wanted you, because you're sort of the elder founding member of this church, you know, and we're not a Presbyterian, so we don't call you elder, but you're definitely the elder of this church. And so in the Bible, when we look at the blessings, how it flows from the elders to the younger generation. And as you heard me preach this morning, the legacy of faith, you know, that stuff that you're talking about, like going to prayer mountain and fasting, that kind of stuff, it's something that's becoming forgotten. I remember when I was serving as a youth pastor, I suggested that I would take the youth kids on overnight camp retreat to the prayer mountain just to fast for one night, and they thought it was such a unthinkable idea. Like, you know, would they do it? You know, and I remember I did that one time, and the 목사님 said, 어른분들보다 낫구먼. You know, like they were, you know, so I'm thinking, like, we should probably try to introduce these things, reintroduce it to them so that they won't forget it. And maybe, who knows, maybe there'll be more rainbow signs coming in from the next 5 decades. So as an elder statesman and an elder of the church, the 총무 집사님, like what's that, the general secretary deacon of the church, what would be some things that you would like to see in the next 50 years, and how would you bless the next generation, the younger generation that are growing up in this church?
Personally, I do like this house church movement.
Yes.
Yeah, and my father always said, son, you are really doing a pastoring, and
Shepherd.
You're doing a shepherd and feeding my.
Yes, sheep.
Jesus said to Peter,
Yeah, feed my sheep. Yeah.
So he said, if I known this house church,
Oh.
yeah,
He would have done it.
he would have done it. And he encouraged me by doing, even though I had so much hard time growing up in a church,
Yeah.
we always wanted to leave the church
Oh.
after having some pastor settle down. And because I don't want to be a stumble or, because I'm being a founding pastor's son, or many churches do have such problems. I've seen in past years, or their own children, or even the pastor themselves, so I didn't want to be one of those. So
Okay.
and my wife and I are always thinking, okay, when the churches settle down and going the right direction, that we would just gradually move out and to serve a smaller church. That was our kind of goal then, but witnessing bringing in BIP through our ministry, house church ministry,
Yeah.
and that's what we're called for.
That would be a wonderful thing to see, MBC being used by God in the next half a century.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to leave on one note. I would love for our church to be well known in the actual neighborhood. We only have 2 SBC churches in Cyprus. We're one of them. And these other guys, they were doing outreach, like doing car wash and getting themselves known to the community. Like, I've always wondered, like, if our church was to pick up and leave to another town, who in this city would miss us? That's the question, I would love for our church in the next half a century to be really well known in this immediate community, and because of what we do, because of our worship here, that they would be blessed, that this city would be really, really blessed, and that they would know us, and they would want to be part of us. That's always been my dream and my prayer. Is there anything else that you would like to add, or?
Well, I mean, it is privileged to serve one church
Yeah.
such a long time.
Yeah.
And it's all God's grace.
Amen.
Yeah. And what I want to maybe mention to younger generation is that the Bible talks about Matthew 6:33.
Yeah. Seek
Seek ye-
first. Yeah.
So if our younger generation trust the Lord, that our priority in life
Yeah.
is His will and His kingdom.
Yes.
And many times we do worry about our futures and our well-being,
Yeah.
but these are not that we have to worry about.
Yeah.
As long as you prioritize your life with God, and those are things He will pour upon.
Yeah.
Blessing that unless you experience it, you can't just mention it. But
Yeah.
I do trust God that where He has blessed me,
Yes.
and I could clearly say to the younger generation
Yeah.
to trust God.
Yeah. Trust
And-
God. God first.
Yes,
Yeah.
and He be the number one in your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
집사님, thank you so much for coming in and doing this interview. I am honored to have given the privilege to talk to you about your father and the founding of this church. I know that this is an important church. I just don't know how many younger people know the significance of the pedigree, going back all the way to the martyrs who gave their lives for the faith of Jesus Christ. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.